Good morning, everybody. Bo's here too. I'm just laughing at myself because I'm like 87 years old. I'm like, oh, I should really clean my glasses before I begin this video, but multitasking. So today I'm hopping on here because I wanted to talk about forgiveness. And so last week, I think maybe on Friday or Saturday, I shared a little something about forgiveness and forgiving people and how to do that and what that looks like, and a big part of that is forgiving yourself. Hey, Lindsay. And so the reason, like, this has been coming up in a lot of my, or honestly, almost all of my Akashic Records intuitive readings. And so it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. Hey, Jamie. And so I just was like, you know what? This is obviously something that we need to talk about. Hey, Sarah. This is something that we need to talk about and something that people need to know about. And the reason that I feel like, okay, I can come on here and I can share and I can give this information is because I have fucking lived it, let me tell you. And I remember thinking back with some of the things that I've been through, and I'm going to get into that. I remember like looking at those things that have happened to me and thinking, I can never forgive this person. I will never, like, I'm a Scorpio. You have wronged me. I will never fucking forgive you. But what happened was, it was killing me. It was poisoning me. It was making me sick. It was affecting every area of my life. And so a big thing that I want to share about and talk about today is, I'm going to get into my story, but I'm going to let you guys know how I did this, and then hopefully there will be something in my story that feels familiar to you that you can implement into your life with people that you need to forgive. And another big thing that keeps coming up in my records is how myself, and with each and every one of my clients, it keeps coming up that you need to forgive yourself. And you think at that and you go, well, what the fuck? You mean I need to forgive myself, but the other person is the one that hurt me? Don't worry, we're gonna get into it, and I'm gonna let you know what that means and what I did, because I know I had some really shitty things happen to me growing up, and I know that there are many of you out there that had other shitty things and even shittier than me things. And so you think, how can I forgive someone that hurt me so much, or that did this or put me through this? And so we're going to get into that. So I'm just going to start by taking a sip of this. It's like a natural energy drink without, like, doesn't make me cray, just gives me energy. Okay, so I'm going to start back from the very, very beginning. My glasses are still not clean. We're just going to take them off because it's going to distract me. So back at the very beginning, when I was 2 months shy of turning 3, my dad committed suicide. He took his own life. And so this is a really important time for me to be telling this story, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so he had a problem with alcohol. He was an alcoholic, and he just had a really hard life. And he really didn't believe that he was worthy of love and that he was worthy of being here. And so he was really sick, and he loved my mom and he loved my sister and I, but he couldn't stay here. And so he took his own life. And so after that happened, then within the next couple of years, my mom remarried, and she remarried to a man who was really, really mentally abusive to all of us, to my sister and I, and to my mom, and a little bit physically abusive too, but not to the extent that many other people have, but very mentally abusive. And so those are two of the very, very pivotal things that affected my life, that changed my life, that two people that I held resentment towards, that I felt blame for, that I was upset with, that I placed blame. And so when I was growing up, I think I was about 12 when my mom always told my sister and I that my dad had an accident. And we would say, well, what happened? What happened? And she would say to us, I always remember her saying, I'll tell you when you're a little bit older. Hey, Lana. She'd always say, I'll tell you when you're a little bit older. Okay, listen, Billy, can you fuck off? Anyways. She would always say to us, I'll tell you when I'm a little bit older, or I'll tell you when you guys are a little bit older. And I just remember eventually one day we were just all together and my sister and I kept asking and we just really wanted to know. And so my mom finally told us that he had taken his own life. And I was so young that I didn't really, I was 11 or 12, and so you don't really know, like, it just is what it is, right? And I didn't realize that it was hurting me, that it was affecting me, because I was just young. And I remember growing up and hearing people say that someone that commits suicide or takes their own life is so selfish because they are leaving all of these other people behind. And when I was young, I remember thinking, yeah, that's so true. Like, how could anyone do that? How could someone leave their 2 little kids? How could someone leave their wife? That is so selfish. Just because I didn't know any better at that point, I didn't know mental illness. I didn't understand it. I didn't have any concept of it. So at the time, I just thought, yes, that is so selfish that my dad did that just because I didn't know any better. And so, so then I'm just trying to think, where am I going to go with the rest of this story? Okay. So then what happened, and my dad's family, thanks, Jenna. My dad's family was, that's okay. I like laugh faces. My dad's family was very, very complicated and kind of estranged, and just a complicated situation. And so we didn't really grow up knowing my dad's family, really. So they weren't really in the picture at all. They weren't in the picture. We didn't have to think about them. We didn't have to worry about them. My mom did such a great job of loving us. My grandparents on my mom's side were so amazing. So we never really felt like, I know, speaking for myself, I never felt like I was missing that side of my family wasn't there, that side of my family was missing. And so then my mom remarried. And, when I look back now as an adult, I think that there are many, many qualities, or definitely, this is just like my evolved brain speaking, there are qualities that this man has or had or whatever that obviously were great, because every person has greatness in them, no matter how dark. Every person has greatness in them. However, like I said, now that I'm more evolved, I can look back and I can know that he was just doing the best with what he knew how to do at the time. But that was certainly not what I thought back then, because growing up, my childhood looked like this. I basically lived in fear all the time. Fear that he was going to come home and get mad at me, get upset with me. Fear that I wasn't going to do things right. Fear that I wasn't good enough. Fear that no matter how hard I tried to do my chores properly or do my homework the right way or all of those things, no matter how hard I tried, I was never, ever, ever good enough. And I think a big part of me really wanted his love. I wanted his approval. I wanted to prove that I was good enough, that I could do, just things like that. I could vacuum the floor properly, and I could put the laundry away right, and I could be smart enough to do my homework, and I could, honestly, every single moment was picking me apart, down from the way that I sat at the dinner table, how I tucked my feet underneath me. Let me tell you, my cat attacked my feet every day, so I had to sit with them on the chair, but I wasn't allowed to because that wasn't the proper way to sit. And if I didn't hold my fork properly, I got in trouble. If I leaned my elbow on the table, if I didn't, just like everything, just like every single thing. I remember telling my mom this, something that stuck out in my head was one time we were having supper and there was like, you have like the garlic toast and you cut it and it's like you always want the bottom piece because it's like full of butter and it's real good. I remember I said, oh, I want another piece of garlic toast. And he said, oh, well, we can share. And he held the two pieces out to me like a test to see which one I was going to take, because in his mind, you always are supposed to give the other person the better option, the bigger option. You're not supposed to take that for yourself. So for me as like a 7-year-old kid, I'm like, oh, I want the buttery one, the delicious buttery one. And he got mad at me and told me I was terrible, told me I was selfish, all of these awful things. And I remember thinking like I'm just a little kid, so why aren't you giving me the better piece? Like, I'm the little kid. You're supposed to be doing this for me. So anyways, I grew up constantly feeling like I wasn't good enough. And so as everything evolved, as everything grew, there's obviously so much more to this story, but my mom and him divorced, I think they separated, divorced when I was like 14, 15. And then we moved back into town, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and of course, you're just a teenager. You're just like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. This hasn't affected me. Nah, 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 nah. And then what ended up happening is I grew up. I was in a relationship. I got married, all of these things. And what ended up happening was I ended up getting like basically debilitating anxiety. And what it all came down to, a lot of the time, I remember thinking, why is it that my anxiety is so triggered around the person I love the most, my husband? I remember thinking that, and he would ask me too, Steph, how come it's me? How come I'm the one that makes you feel this way? Does anybody else make you feel this way? He was like, I love you. I'm your husband. Why am I the one that's bringing this on in you? And then the time when my anxiety was so bad, I didn't know. I couldn't, for any of you that have anxiety or even have depression, it's you can't always articulate what you're thinking, what's going on in your head. And so I remember saying to him, I don't know why you're the one that does it. I don't know. And so I ended up it was actually just a year ago, just about a year ago. Thanks, Lindsay. It was just about a year ago. I remember I pulled up, I was like, okay, I know that I have these limiting beliefs. I know I have these anxieties that are being brought up around my husband, but I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. I can't figure out how to identify them. I can't figure out what's bringing them on. And so I started paying attention. I started paying attention to, okay, when I feel those triggers, when I feel that anxiety boiling up in me, when I feel that where I would just freeze and I couldn't think and I couldn't do anything, my brain would stop working, or I would just my anxiety manifested in many different ways, but freezing was one of them. Here's what I realized. I realized that when my husband, who loves me so much, would come home and say something that literally doesn't even matter, that's not something that ever should affect me that much, he would say, oh, you sure left a mess all over the sink today, which is usually true, because if you guys ever see the background of my pictures, my sink's a fucking mess and I never clean it out because I just don't care. And in my head, instead of just hearing Keith saying for exactly what he was saying, oh, the sink's really messy today, Steph, instead of just hearing that and taking it for what it was, that comment would trigger me and take me back. And it would bring me back to that place where I was the little girl that couldn't do anything right. And so Keith would say, the sink is really messy today, Steph. And I would hear, you're not good enough. You can't do anything right. You're not a good enough wife. You don't look after things well enough. You are not enough. That's what I would hear. That's what that told me. And so I realized that the things my husband was saying to me at no fault of his own, because he was just living life. Like, he was not being rude. He wasn't like poking at me, he was just making a comment. And he wasn't being like passive aggressive or being a dick or anything. It would take me to that place. So and then I started realizing too, okay, little things when we were growing up, when my mom's ex-husband would come home, he always drove a truck. And that truck, either seeing the truck, hearing the truck, the sound of it, hearing it pull up, instilled this like earth-shattering fear inside of me. Because all of a sudden I would wake up to the fact that, oh great, now I'm going to hear how terrible I am, how bad I am. I'm going to get in trouble for all of the things that I didn't do right today. I'm going to say the wrong thing 600 times, and I'm going to hear over and over and over again about how I'm not right. So what I started realizing is that when I would come home from work, this is when I still worked at the salon, when I would come home from work and I would open my garage door, if Keith's truck was home, I would feel this feeling deep in my gut. And it was only for a fleeting moment. And it would go, and it was just like a contraction, like a nervousness. And it passed without me even realizing it. But on the contrary, if I would get home from work, open my garage door open, and see that his truck was gone, I would feel this fleeting moment of relief. Da fuck. So that really fucking sucked, because my husband is not that person. Not even a little fucking bit. However, those little things that he was not even doing, but they were triggering me and bringing me back to that place. Just his presence of being home would make me feel like I was gonna learn about all the things that I sucked at and did wrong today. And so I realized that within myself. And then I had the really, really fun time of telling my husband, okay, I figured this out, and you remind me, or not even that you remind me, but you trigger things inside of me, not on purpose, that take me back to that place. And so that was really, really hard. That was really, really hard to tell him, because the last thing that he ever wanted to do or ever wants to do is to hurt me, let alone when we're having an argument and we're upset. But for him to know, for him to know that just by existing in the world, that he was bringing these things up in me, it was really hard for me to tell him that. Because like, this is the person I love the most in the world, and this is the person that loves me the most in the world. And he's unintentionally bringing me to that place. And so I said to him, he was so good about it. I mean, I could tell that like, that it hurt him, and that he was really sad that's where it was taking me. But I really reassured him, like, this isn't you. And so what I started doing little by little by little was just like working through. I would tell myself, Keith is not him. This fear that you're having, Keith is not saying you're good enough. Keith is not questioning your self-worth. And I would remind myself. And then something really big happened a couple of months later. And that made a really, really big change for us, because when I would get upset about something, I would say to Keith, I would just say to him, like, he would be like, why did you stop talking? Or why are you getting so upset? Or why do you think I'm always angry at you? And I would just like stop, and I would like work through my cycle in my head. And I would just tell myself, okay, you are here in, 2018 with your husband who loves you. And I would walk myself through it. You are good enough. You are smart enough. This isn't anybody saying you're a bad person. This is everything's okay. And I would say to him, I just need a moment of quiet to work through my thoughts and work through my feelings, because I would tell him this process, this trigger is happening, and I'm going through it in my head in real time. And so he's just so amazing. And if you guys know Keith at all in real life, he is an Aries. He is fiery. He wants to talk about it now, and he's not very patient. And so the fact that he is like so good to me, so patient with me, so loving throughout all of this is just like, I could cry again just thinking about it, but I'll spare you. He's amazing. So then this really crazy thing happened a couple of months later, and I know now that it really was divine timing, because had I never worked through any of this with myself and like figured out my thought process, figured out where it was coming from, this never would have been able to happen. So almost a year ago, I think it would be a year ago in June, my grandpa was having knee surgery. So my sister and I were taking him and my grandma in to go have his knee surgery. We were about an hour of the way into the drive, and we had to stop to go to the bathroom. And so at this point, within the last month or so, I remember thinking, because I hadn't seen him, my mom's ex-husband, I hadn't seen him in like 15 years. Hadn't seen him once. And like in real life. And so I remember thinking, I'm going to run into him at some point. What am I going to do? Because I would have dreams, you guys. I would have dreams that he would like come and try to tell me what to do. And I would be like, you can't tell me what to do. And I would like punch him in the face. Okay. So I would have dreams about that. So obviously I knew that that was not what I was going to do. But I just remember thinking, this maybe is something I need to consider. Like, what am I going to do when this situation happens? And I never really, it's something I thought about, but I never really like came up with a game plan. So anyways, we pulled up at a gas station to go to the bathroom, and my grandpa drove us right up to the door. And as we're about to get out, who is walking towards the door coming from the other direction? It was him. It was him. And we all just went, holy shit. And I knew in that moment that I had two choices. I could either sit in the car and hide and wait until he left, or I could just like, let's do this. Like, here we go. My sister was beside me, and she is like so lovely and has such a big heart, and she's given him forgiveness and all of this stuff. And so she was really worried about me because she knew how deep this like was for me. But anyways, I didn't even say a thing. I just flung off my seatbelt. Maybe it was this way. Flung off my seatbelt, and I got out of the car, and away I went. And so I walked up to the door, and he was kind of holding the door open, and I just looked at him, I smiled, and I said, hi. And he didn't recognize me at first because he hasn't seen me in like 15 years. And he looked at me and went, hi. And then he went, oh, hi. And like, I went through. He carried on. That was it. However, here's what you need to understand. This is the man that my whole life I have labeled a monster. This is the man that I have blamed for fucking up my childhood, for causing my anxiety, for fucking up my life, for all of these terrible, 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 terrible things. This is the man, the monster in my head, the monster that I've blamed for all of these things. And here I am, walked up, smiled, carried on, and just like did the damn thing. And I got to the bathroom, and I like took inventory of myself. Like, I sat down to go pee, and I was like, okay, how do I feel? Am I okay? Do I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack in this bathroom? Do I feel like I'm gonna puke? Do I feel like I can't breathe? And I was just like, do I feel angry? And I was just like, no, I'm good. I feel good. And I was just like, whoa, okay, I'm good. And I like finished going to the bathroom, whatever. And my sister came in, and she didn't really say, she just was kind of like, whoa, like as if that just happened. And so then I'm like washing my hands, and I just kind of looked at her and I said, do you realize how big of a deal this is right now? It's like, I have not seen him in like 15 years, and like, I'm fine right now. And that was just like, whoa. So anyways, we carried on for the rest of the day. I text my husband. I was like, you're not gonna believe what just happened, whatever. So anyways, About 2 days later, before I went to work, I was sitting out on the deck and I just started journaling. I was journaling and I was writing so quickly, just journaling out everything that I felt. I was journaling so quickly. It was coming so quickly out of me, downloading from my brain so fast that I could not hardly even write. And by the end of it, I realized that I had written him a forgiveness letter to him. I didn't mean to forgive him. I didn't consciously say, I'm going to forgive you. But just in the process of all of this happening, I looked at the bigger picture and I was just like, holy fuck. And I just realized I have been carrying this, and it's been killing me. It's been poisoning me. I have been blaming this person for all of my anxieties, for, affecting my life in this way, affecting my life in that way. But what it comes down to, and this is where the forgiveness of self comes in, is that and this came down the road, but I forgave him for what he had done to me because I looked at the bigger picture and thought, you know what? We are all human. We are all just doing our best. And even though his best was obviously really fucking shitty, he had a really hard life too. And he didn't know how to properly love things that happened to him when he was being raised. And I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm not saying that ever makes it okay to abuse children or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that I really truly believe that he was just doing the best that he could do with the tools that he had. The way that he knew how to love, the way that he knew how to discipline, and that doesn't mean it's okay, but I really know he was just doing his best with what he knew how to do. And so that day when I walked out of the vehicle, I think what happened was I grabbed little Stephanie's hand and we walked up to him together and we faced it, and it was just like everything changed then. But what happened was with my forgiveness with self, that was the secondary thing that came, because here's what I mean by that. Of course, it is not 6-year-old Stephanie's fault that her stepdad is mentally abusing her. However, I have to take ownership. I had to take ownership of the fact that I let those things affect me. I'm the one that let them. I'm the one that placed blame on all of that. I'm the one that didn't take ownership for allowing myself to feel that way about it. And I know that might be hard to hear for someone, and I know that there are people that have been through much, 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 much worse things than I have, but I had to forgive myself for letting it affect me, for letting it be part of my story, for letting it be, I'm the one that allowed myself to believe for so long that I wasn't good enough. Because just because somebody told me that, I didn't have to carry that with me all of these years, but I chose to. I chose to let it stay inside of me. I chose to not do the work. I chose to carry that with me for my whole fucking life until now. So, Lindsay, I'm so glad that this is feeling relatable for you. So once I gave that forgiveness to him, and that's not saying, you can do it in whatever order. If you need to forgive yourself first, whatever, but that is a vital, vital part of it. I never would be where I am right now if I didn't forgive myself for letting all of those things affect me, for letting myself believe those lies, for letting myself believe that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy of love, that I wasn't good enough, I couldn't be enough of a wife, enough of a, of a sister, enough of a cat mom, whatever. I'm the one that chose to keep believing those things, okay? And so that's what I'm trying to get across. And so everything changed for me when I started to forgive myself. And same thing with my dad. There were a couple of years where I did feel like I was that I was upset at him for not being here, and not in the sense that I really did always. I always understood that, and just had that knowing that he just really couldn't be here, that he couldn't be here in this lifetime. And so I had that knowing, but I would still feel upset at him sometimes when when there were big things in life that he couldn't be here for. That always made me really sad. And I don't even know if in those times it was like that I was blaming him for not being here, but I was just really sad. It was really sad that he wasn't here. Although, it's funny because now, I mean, for those of you that don't know, I'm a psychic. So I talk to him all the time now. So it's funny because now, I mean, he's here for me. Now I know, like, oh my God, of course he was there on my wedding day. Of course he was there through all of these, like, amazing things in my life. And he's here now. So it's like now I'm like, oh, duh, I know that. But it's hard, it's really hard. You're welcome, Larissa. And so with that, I had to, I guess I did just have to forgive him in the sense of, I always knew that he wasn't meant to be here, but I think I just had to forgive him for the fact that, like, he wasn't able to be here for some of the most important things, or like stuff like, like when my car would break down and I'd be like, well, I don't fucking know who to call. Who does this stuff, And you'd hear like other people, they would just call their dad, like, duh. That was never something I had. And so, and I mean, I have other amazing, men and people in my life that have been there for me, but it's like, there were so many of those things that I just had to have understanding for and have forgiveness for, and then too, forgive myself for being upset with him, for being angry with him, and also forgive myself for focusing so much on what was missing and what I didn't have, that I failed to be grateful for all of the amazing things that were surrounding me. Like the time that I lived in the city and I went to start my vehicle and it just like didn't work. And I remember thinking, well, for fuck's sakes, these are the kind of things that people call their dads about. And then their dads just come to the rescue, and I don't have a dad. But so at the time, because I was so sad with that, I didn't get to be so grateful for the fact that I was able to call my boss at the restaurant that I worked at. Shout out to Nick at Nico's, who's amazing. I got to call my boss and say, hey, Nick, like, I don't know what to do. My car won't start. And he came down and helped me. How amazing. Like, honestly, the amount of amazing people that are in my life and that have been there for me in times when, like, a dad figure, a dad person, how about I just say literally a dad, would have been there. I had so many other amazing people there for me. Like, oh my goodness, if you guys know in real life my grandparents, or you've seen me talk about them or seen my posts about them, my grandpa is the most amazing. Like, he has always been there for us, always supported us, always helped us with everything. And there have been so many times where I haven't been grateful for the people that I do have because I was focusing on the lack, focusing on what I didn't have. And so that's something for any of you as well that are experiencing these things or have things with parents, or you're like, I wish my mom was like that, or I wish my dad was like that, or I wish I just had a mom, or I wish I had a dad, or whatever the case is. We need to turn it around. We can't focus on the lack. We need to say, but what do I have? Who's in my life that's amazing? Who do I have here that's so fucking awesome? Like, those are the things we need to focus on. And so, again, that forgiveness to myself for being blind, for not paying attention, for not being grateful, because, we really do have so many amazing things, right? So, you're welcome, Jared. So anyways, those are just some little pieces of my story. I think I'm not going to cry anymore. I can throw that away. So I hope that for those of you that are still watching, have been watching from the beginning, I really hope that helped. I hope that gave you some idea, some perspective, a different way of looking at things, because as children and throughout our lives, there are so many things that we really do not have control over. I didn't have any control over, the man that my mom married. I didn't have any control over the way that he, the things that he said to me and all of that stuff. However, now that I'm an adult, it is my responsibility to do something with it, because I could have chosen to let that poison me for my whole life, to blame him, to look and say, this person doing these things to me is the reason that I have all of these problems. It's the reason, no. I could have said that. I could have just blamed, but that's not fair, because the only thing that we can control, the only thing I can control, the only thing you can control is how we react to things. And I let myself be blaming for so long, and the only person it did a disservice to was me. However, let me tell you something. When we have a connection with someone like that, and I will use my stepdad as an example, whether he knows it or not, him and I have some sort of energetic connection. And like I said, I haven't talked to him. I know nothing. That's okay, Megan. It will post, and I'm going to share it on my YouTube, so it's okay. Yes, Lindsay, I'd love to hear from you. And so I know, I haven't talked to him. I have no idea what's going on in his life. I know nothing. But what I do know is that him and I have an energetic connection, and I have no idea whether he has reflected upon what he did to us, how he treated us, that kind of thing, and if he has ever even thought about it. I don't know. I don't know if he's looked back and thought, like, wow, I wasn't kind, or like, I literally have no idea. But what I do know, first of all, I sent him that forgiveness letter. I never told you guys that. I sent him that forgiveness letter. And he opened it, he read it, and I did say, please do not feel called to respond, because, I didn't say it in these words, but I was like, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to respond, because I am free. I'm free. However, in the forgiveness letter, I did send it to him, but what happens energetically, on an energetic cellular level, within your soul, within your body? Because I healed that, because I removed that blame, because I looked at it from a different perspective and I healed that part of me, that helps him heal, whether he knows it or not. That little bit in his heart that might feel a certain way about how our lives were, how he treated us, or that kind of thing. Me healing healed him, and he didn't even have to do anything about it. Get this. Me healing helped my mom heal, helped my sister heal, helped my little brother heal. Even better, me healing helped my future children heal. It helped their future children down the fucking line. So if you think Even if you don't want to, it's too hard and you think, I can't do this, I can never forgive someone. If you can't do it for yourself, you best do it for the people around you, for the people that don't even exist yet, for way down the line, because that's how this works. Energetically, it's the same thing. If I had held on to that hate and blame and anger, he would have kept holding it. My mom would have kept holding it. My sister, my brother, my future children, my future grandchildren, all down the line until someone chose to fucking heal it. It was me. I chose. Me. I did. And so, like, I'm not like being like, I'm the hero, but like, yeah, I fucking am, because it was really hard. It was really, really hard, and I cried a lot. But anyways, how long have I been talking for? Oh my goodness. Just talking and talking and talking. As you know, nothing new here. So, this is something that's been coming up in so many of my readings. And so I really wanted to come on and just share this story with you, give you this insight for anyone that either has already had a reading with me and needs to know more or wants to know more on how to forgive. I always find like hearing someone else's story helps it make sense in my head. Or for someone that hasn't booked a reading, curious about booking a reading, wants to book a reading but doesn't have the time right now, whatever. I wanted to come share this with you because it keeps coming up. And so I was just so called to come on here and share this with all of you. So thank you to everyone who's on here live that watched this. Anyone that's going to watch the recording, I will save this and then upload it to my YouTube so it can be a directory, because I'm here to give, I'm here to help, I'm here to just like share, I'm here to stand basically stripped, bare, naked, sharing my story, sharing all of the things, so that I can help you guys, so that I can help you. And honestly, when I share this shit, it helps me heal too. It's all part of it. So any little piece of your story that sounds familiar in mine, my little bit that I heal and then I share, it's helping you. So you being here listening to this right now, it is not just helping you. It's affecting the people you love. It's affecting your children. So like, give yourself a fucking pat on the back for being here, listening to this, and I hope moving forward and implementing this into your life. So, thank you, Tara. That means so much to me. I can't wait for us to chat again on Friday. So anyways, thank you for the love. Thank you, Tina. Thank you for listening to this. Like I said, I'm here for you guys. If this helped you or something really stood out to you, I would love for you to message me and let me know what it was, because the more that I know what I share helps you guys, the more I will keep doing it, because I'm here to serve, I'm here to help, I'm here to heal me, I'm here to heal you, okay? So, mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you all.